this is the lab environment that we're going to look at, and so we wanted to save some time, and we still have some time to go into a live lab environment to take a closer look at some of the Federation capabilities and Federation features that Kaushik talked about. And there's obviously been a lot of interest in that. Hopefully Howard comes back and he's able to see some of this. But so mainly what we've got teed up is a demo on live migrate with volume advisors. So the seamless data ability piece, there's several different use cases that we can tie to that. And also live volume with automatic failover. So that's the stretch storage, high availability, data protection, automatic failover, that kind of thing. So we've got 2 demos to show. This is just kind of a lay of the land of the lab and what you're going to see in DSM. That's our federated management tool. We've got 4 SE series arrays. We've got 2 all-flash SCV3020s. That's SC56 and 58, as well as 2 SC8000s with a mix of spinning disk 7K and 10K drives. So. And also in the lab, we've got a couple of applications of various importance. You can see that VM1, the workload is iometer, so we can see real time what's going on, what's the experience for that application, where the end users are going to be using it. VM1 we'll use as a mission critical application for the live volume automatic failover, the vSphere Metro storage cluster piece. And then VM2 is also another application that we're going to use for volume advisor and live migrate. Okay, so I'm going to assume the role of the storage admin, and this is Bob's IT shot. Bob's sitting in the back. He's actually the application owner, so we kind of designed this to be a little bit interactive. But Bob owns the applications. He's on the hook for the SLAs with the business units. So he's set and defined some of the requirements for these applications. He'll convey those to me. We'll use the Federation capabilities within DSM to set up policies to make sure that we adhere to the SLAs, okay? So without further ado, let's go into the lab, and I need to take a seat because I gotta drive this. What we see here is, this is my vSphere environment in the background. These are the applications that we're gonna work with here, our virtual machines running in a stretch cluster that have been presented volumes from our SC3020 all-flash arrays. We're going to primarily be working within our federated management tool. So this is Dell Storage Manager, or DSM, for those that are not familiar with it. And you can see our storage centers in the Federation here. Here's the 2 SC8000s with a mix of spinning disk. And then our SCV3020 all-flash arrays. That's SC56 and SC58. So the first thing we need to do is find out from the application owner, what kind of policies do we need for this application in terms of latency.
Could you show us the options out here?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So we'll go to threshold alerts. Now, volume advisor is based on threshold alerts. Those are not new. We've got many different types of thresholds that we can set in the system. Volume advisor works off 4 different types of thresholds. So Kaushik talked about them. Front-end IOPS on the controllers, CPU utilization on the controllers, capacity or consumption of raw storage in the page pool on the systems, and then last but not least, latency on the volumes, okay? So if we look at threshold alerts and let's go ahead and create a definition here, we can see that depending on the type of object that we select, we're going to get different options for the type of threshold that we create. Now, there's many different types of thresholds that we can create here, alerts that can be generated, but for the purposes of Volume Advisor, we want to go ahead and choose. I think we were going to talk about a latency.
Yeah.
And what?
Critical. I've got some key apps coming into the holiday season. Black Friday is coming, so latency is key right now.
All right. So this is going to be latency, and what are we talking about? Latency. What is?
You guys can repeat it. Sorry.
Yeah. So Bob has a dramatic things during the Black Friday. He needs to sell a lot of stuff, so he wants to set up a threshold for his application. I think is 10 milliseconds. We said.
Yeah, well, this is an all-flash array. We can probably do a little bit better than that. So let's call it. I don't know if I can probably guarantee you 5 milliseconds in these arrays. So So we'll define a threshold alert for volume advisor that's going to monitor if the latency on a per volume basis goes up above 5 milliseconds. Okay. Now we want to be alerted via email if that threshold is exceeded, and also from a volume advisor perspective, we want volume advisor to, that layer of intelligence to let us know, is there any other storage centers within the Federation that you could recommend that this would be a good placement to migrate this workload to. So we're going to check the box, do you recommend storage center? And that's it. All right. Now that's the threshold. Now we got to apply it to the different types of objects within the system. What do we want to actually monitor? Do we want to monitor all volumes on the storage center, a specific individual volume, or perhaps a group of volumes within a folder? We'll watch them all. I've got other customers that have similar SLAs, and I would want to be notified on an all-flash array if we're exceeding 5 milliseconds on any of those volumes. So I'm just going to choose them all. And this application right now is running on SC56, okay? All right, so our threshold has been created. If we look at the application right now in
So the
EM2,
threshold is 6, what do you put?
it's 6 milliseconds. So at
Okay.
5 or under, we're okay. That's my SLA with Bob. If it goes above 5, then it's going to fire an alert, and volume advisor should make a
If it
recommendation.
goes above 6, Bob is due for his Black Friday.
All right.
And we set it up for all volumes on that particular array,
Yeah.
right?
So this is our application. You can see right now we're sitting at about 1.1 milliseconds, about 30,000 IOPS. So now what we need to do is, Howard, you were asking about this, QoS.
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to go back to
That's
storage, and I need to introduce some latency to this application. And so I've got a QoS policy here. Howard, you might have wanted to look at this. So I'm calling this my latency generator. What I'm effectively going to do here is limit the IOPS to this volume to 600, which is going to artificially drive up latency to this volume, okay? So for the purposes of this demo, I normally would not treat my
such a horrible
customers
thing.
this way.
Yeah, no, but yeah. But it's only Bob. And
It's only Bob. All right, so that's our QoS profile. What we're going to do is going to apply that to the volume where this application lives. Okay, so we've got this SFDLM volume. Click OK. If I'm real quick, we can see the impact that that's going to have on this volume. We can see IOPS has dropped significantly by about 29,500.
back pressure.
Latency has gone up to about 53 milliseconds, okay? So right now, Volume Advisor and actually the data collector is monitoring statistics and values and so forth from each of the arrays in the Federation on about a 1 minute interval, okay? So,
And I saw that you can put also a folder, like you can name volume that you want to apply that QoS as well.
yeah, so it mentioned folders.
Yeah.
So obviously within Storage Center, within DSM, we can create, for housekeeping purposes, we can place all our different volumes and so forth in different folders, and so we can apply these thresholds to a particular folder that contains a volume. So or a volume. So maybe
So just-
consider.
If I applied it, if I said to a folder 600 IOPS, is that total or per volume?
I think that, so I haven't tried it. I think that the way that that's going to work is it's going to apply that value to each volume
Yeah.
in the folder is
Right.
the way I would think that would work.
That's the way I would normally want it to work.
Okay.
How's this translate into vVol support? Is QoS visible in SPBM?
QoS visible in SP storage policy based management. I can visualize the 5 policies that we support: encryption, snapshot, RAID type, replication. I can look. I don't remember off the top of my head if that's the 5th one or not.
Okay. Because clearly QoS, you want to do it
We do have the vVol support.
as brand. Yeah, but
vVol's 1.0 VASA 2.0 support.
okay. But you don't do VASA 3.0 yet.
Not yet.
Howard, excuse me.
Transparency.
Sorry, Jason, we've got a big holiday coming up. You're below the threshold. I need help. I just
How do you
got an
know?
alert on my phone.
You got a message on the phone?
I got a message on my phone. Jason, you got to help me out. That's what we talked
I
about.
think that was my phone dinging too. I also get alerts as the storage administrator. So
Okay.
So if we go back into Dell Storage Manager and take a look at
Bob's been studying at the active
threshold
video.
alerts, whoop, and click on refresh instead of save, we should see that indeed Bob was indeed correct. Our current value of latency on that volume is 53 milliseconds, and we're well above the 5 milliseconds. So what we want to do, and normally at this point I would probably look at the application, but I already know from an application level it's suffered.
There's not much to know about iometer.
So we right click on the active threshold alert, okay? And so this is where Volume Advisor comes in, all right? Recommend Storage Center. So Volume Advisor is going to say, based on the threshold you set up, I'm seeing that this is a latency-based threshold currently on SC56 where the volume is. I'm recommending that we move that volume, storage field LM, to the SC58 all-flash array that we also have in the Federation.
Okay. Am I safe in assuming that the interrelationship between QoS and the thresholds is something that is going to happen in this demo and we can make it not happen in the real world? Because telling me that the volumes I'm specifically throttling have high latency it's kind of like a news story that says dog bites man. It's kind of like, yeah, that's the expected behavior.
The QoS profile was set up specifically for
Yeah. Okay.
For
That's
create
just
the problem.
right.
Create the problem. That is
Just what I wanted to hear.
That's
It's like,
right.
yes, we made this happen, and you could only do that by fat fingering.
So I click that link that says, okay, let's go forward with your recommendation. So these are,
So that was the place we talked about. You could override it, right?
Right.
But in this situation, we chose to go with the recommendation that the array gave us.
now to answer your question, over in the corner next to Howard.
Eric.
Sorry, I forget your name, Eric. We can absolutely use fiber channel, iSCSI, or both. This particular array is only set up with fiber channels. That's all we see in the pull down, but normally there'd be iSCSI in here as well.
Okay.
For the replication conduit, for that async replication. I don't need to change anything here. All I need to do, this is simplicity, click create, and it is going forward now with setting up, creating the replica volume on the secondary array, which Kaushik had a slide build out for this. It's establishing the replication from the source to the destination, async, and it's also adding the additional paths from the destination to the storage host. All right, so we should see in a.
So showing you the simplicity, right? It was just one single click. So all those things which I showed you, setting up the LUN, setting up the replication, all of that step was just that one click that he did, right? All of these things are happening under the covers.
Well, actually, not just under the covers, right in front of us.
And all,
That's what it's doing.
and all of this data, all of this is available to me through PowerShell or the REST API?
Yes,
Okay, because,
just about anything you can do in
yeah,
DSM.
not big, but this kind of
is in the
automation framework, it's kind of like, okay, get the recommendation, and then,
Do a minimum evaluation and then.
well, there's two questions, you get the you should move this, and
Yeah.
there's two other questions you have to solve. It's like, is where you want me to put it something that is a bad idea for reasons the system doesn't know about? But there's also, when do I do it? Because kind of the big problem with storage DRS has always been the act of moving it adds more load to the system that's already overloaded.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, in this
And
case,
so-
we want to do it right away because we busted an SLA.
Yeah, right. But in my automation
But
framework,
you're absolutely correct.
in my automation framework, I might want to say, okay, do this when the load on the source array falls under this, and so it'll happen at 3:00 in the morning.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up an important point too. That in a large organization, there may be political reasons where you do not want to move a volume from one array, from sales to another array that manufacturing purchased.
Oh, I've worked in universities. And it's, that professor bought that thing on a grant, and you can't let anybody else use it.
Yes.
On the flip side, do I have to wait for what the system generates as a recommendation?
No.
I can generate my own.
You can do everything you see, you can do by your own.
So Kaushik talked about two ways to kick off a live migrate. We just showed one of them. One of them is through Volume Advisor and you leveraging thresholds. The other way is what he called the manual method, where
You can choose.
let's just bypass Volume Advisor, because right, that works off 4 metrics. Volume Advisor doesn't know if there's a hurricane coming into a coastal region,
Right.
and I want to migrate my application further inland. That's where you're going to use a
Or,
live
or for
migration.
example, if you're doing a migration, right? You bought a new array. Nothing wrong with the old one. You just now want to move a few LUNs to the new one right now.
I'm actually thinking more on the other side, because what I like about the recommendation is it's telling me, hey, wake up, there's something not great here.
Yeah, yeah.
But I might want to react otherwise from the point of view that Howard pointed out, which is I'm going to generate more load. So maybe instead of attacking the volume that's having problems, I want to have the code that will go and offload like DRS does. It's
Yeah.
don't take the big one that's really working hard.
Yeah.
In fact, offload some of the smaller ones that aren't doing anything to
yeah.
make some room.
Absolutely, and that's why we said also you can set capacity and CPU utilization.
Yeah.
So, for example, one of the use cases, I mean, you use latency here to make the things much easier.
Oh, yeah.
but-
Yeah.
Yeah.
But thinking about this, I have a system that is 90% CPU utilization or 80. You give me an advice, I just bring in a new system,
Yeah.
then I start to move the things. I don't want to move maybe one at a time, I'm doing manually. But when I have this federation constructed, then I have the right advice, right? This system is 20% loaded.
Yeah, it,
Move stuff up.
ultimately, I mean, don't get me wrong, I like
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
but it needs a policy engine.
For example, the thing is, what you're doing right now is we just said, I'm having problems, therefore I'm the one who should move. And perhaps the approach is, he's having problems, maybe we should just make some more room for him. So I don't want to move the guy who's generating all the I/O load. I want to move somebody else out just to, see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Have
that's why.
policy
That's
engine.
why I think that there are use cases where you want to use volume advisor every time. There is other case
Yeah.
where you want, because you know the system better and specific volume, what they're doing.
Well, see, I might not know what they're doing.
No,
This is-
but-
but what I like about Volume Advisor is it wakes up and tells me, hey, you've violated
Yeah.
SLA, you should do something.
And you can review that, so you
That's
can
right.
keep that as hey, you have something that is going on
Yeah.
here and it's not right.
That could be the figure which starts off my little script that says, okay, alert came in, my REST API goes, okay, who are the second and third highest I/O generators on this
That-
volume?
that's right.
Go ask for another. go
Who
find
are the
another spot.
outlier of the top 10, and I decide which one. So all of these, they are improvement that we obviously can put because the logic is already there. So very good
That's right.
point.
The feedback's important. I mean, from this group, we've got it from customers and so forth. I mean, the code is as it is today. It's like a model railroad. It's never complete. And
Exactly.
there's
Yeah,
always
well,
room
no,
for
it's-
Oh, yeah, no, no.
improvement.
And-
Totally. That's-
And that's what we want to hear.
And once you build the first policy engine, people will come back and go, could you make
Like
it
us.
take these 4 things into account
Yeah.
too? So and
Absolutely.
Yeah.
never
But
expecting it to
it's
be.
a very good point. I think it's, yeah.
No, I mean, this is, like Howard said, this is great. I mean,
Yeah,
I really like this. I'm
Okay,
thinking
you've
further
got
down the
crawling down.
Improvements, yeah. That's
Everybody else is just sitting there like a lump. You're crawling fine. Let's start walking.
Yeah.
Like a what if generator kind of thing. We'll go, actually, that's nice, but actually, what if I did this? Would it be then good to move these other ones elsewhere?
Oh yeah, no, and ultimately you want to say, okay, so there's these 17 workloads and they have priorities, and maybe I want to move the low priority workload, and
Right.
there's lots of the more you think about it, the more complicated the policy engine can get.
Yeah, and this is why you
And
guys
it's kind of
went
like
with something.
we're gonna
did the job.
You're crawling fine, walking will be, and here's a policy engine, and you can make these 5 decisions.
Got it.
And then later they'll be more and more complicated.
Correct.
Yeah,
And
there's
that's-
certainly a lot of things to take in consideration. I mean, one of the things, to think about, hey, leave my workload alone, move some other huge workload. Okay, there's hidden cost to that in terms of when we're going to, we'll pick up and move that, replicate it into tier 1 on some other destination array, and a larger workload or larger footprint is going to do what? Take up more tier 1 space during that ingestion. That could cause a problem on that array. That's something that we have to factor in.
Yeah, so that's
Okay.
why I think the
In the
recommendation.
intelligence.
I just want it to be. Well, it's good. We just want it to be even smarter than it is. That's just
I don't
because we're
disagree.
greedy.
Yeah.
Very good point.
The
All right.
advantage of being on this side of the table is you don't have to actually code any of this
Correct.
because asking is a lot easier than doing.
But that's a very good point. I mean, the policy engine and the constructive policy engine is very good in this case, right?
Yeah.
And if we can build that in the product, will be very nice.
All right.
So now we need to get to the most important part where we're doing the transparent, right? We're not having any input and
Did you do the cutover already?
Oh, one other minor point. The policy engine can be external. It doesn't have to run in one of the arrays in the federation. I'm fine with a VM.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
okay.
So a couple things have happened here. Number one, the workload replicated pretty quickly. These being all flash arrays and my VM being about a 35 gig footprint replicated within about a minute or two. I also choose the option, we didn't really talk about, well, you talked about a little bit, Kaushik. Stage 3 of Live Migrate is to perform that role swap where the volumes move, where the primary goes to the destination, the secondary goes to the primary. By default, we do that automatically, and I left this at the default, and you'll notice what has happened is that as soon as we role swap, what's been alleviated? The pressure, the latency that's being caused. The application, as a result of that automatic role swap, has improved back within tolerances, which is normally why a customer would want to use that automatic role swap.
So you have 1.3, 1.2 millisecond right now?
Is that, Jason? Is that because the QoS setting didn't migrate with it?
Right, so the QoS setting is only on the SC56 array. If the QoS setting was on the SC58 array as well, we probably wouldn't have got a recommendation because it would have been burdened over there as well.
Now he's asking, why didn't a policy I applied to a volume move with it across
Right.
federation?
Because they are per system currently. They're static per system. So
okay.
there's nothing saying we can't create the same policy or use PowerShell to blast out
Yeah,
the
well-
same policy to the same volumes.
But what if the volume doesn't exist on the other one yet?
Well, and therein lies the problem, right?
Exactly.
How can we apply a policy? We can certainly create the definition on another system,
Okay.
but we can't apply it to a volume that the system doesn't own.
Yeah, you need to
Right.
create the volume first.
But yeah, it's one more thing to build into the policy engine.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, so life's good. Our application is recovered. We have to perform the final step of our live migration, which is to, if we go back into a federated tool, Dell Storage Manager, let's actually go look at the status of our live migrations. I'll click refresh here. And we can see that it's ready to be completed. It's 100% replicated. We're ready to do that cutover. And so this is where we tear down the paths from the storage host to the source system. We shut down the replication link between the systems, and the storage host at this point is running completely on the destination array. The one thing that we do, and this is just an acknowledgement here that, yep, we want to do this, and we've actually performed a storage rescan on the storage host if we forget that step.
Yeah.
And we're still operating on the old paths that have the proxy. During the cutover, we're going to lose access to our storage. So that's just an acknowledgement. Hey, you're doing the final cutover. Are you sure you rescanned for storage and devices on your host? Yeah, we did. I did that while we were talking. I don't know if you caught that.
Yeah, I got the little right click.
All right. So we've done the final step. Now, if we go back to storage, click refresh. The last thing that we actually do is we can delete. I don't remember if your slide talked about it, but we actually will preserve the original source volume on the original array and just sort of abandon it, just in case customer wants to go back and retrieve that copy of data, although at this point it's out of date because all the rights have been going to the primary on the destination array. All right, so that's the live migrate demo with Volume Advisor. Do we have time for live volume auto failover?
We have time? Yeah.
It's
It's
3 minutes till.
let's why not?
All right.
Jason,
Hey, he has
for
the
you,
courage to do a
no
live
problem.
demo.
For me, I
Yeah.
really
For
appreciate.
you guys, come on.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, it shouldn't take too long. I mean, this is
All right. So this is actually the same infrastructure, the same federation. Well, we're going to use the same arrays, same type of workload here. You can see iometer running. I've actually got a little Macromedia Flash stopwatch in there too, so we can kind of measure how quickly we make progress with the auto failover. But Bob, I believe you had something you wanted to interject about this application requirement.
Well, in in some cases where we need to meet that SLA, maybe the team's not around working the weekend, so we wanted to automatically fail over to that remote site. We're going to skip the recommendation section. I got to have it running all the time.
Right. We Yeah. All right, so that sounds like a perfect use case for live volume automatic failover in case we have some kind of unplanned outage.
Exactly.
On either array where the stretched live volume is already set up. If we look at our replications and live volumes, I've already set up the live volume ahead of time. I haven't configured automatic failover, but we'll do that right now. That's actually a critical step in order for the demo to work. So let's go ahead and enable automatic failover on this existing live volume. It's simply a checkbox. You wouldn't believe how many years of engineering went into a checkbox.
Checkbox.
Well, I know there's, well, if it's since the EMC acquisition, it's at least 6 months of meetings.
It's been more than 6 months, and it goes back to founder days. But I mean, now that we have it, and frankly, we've had it for over 2 years. Okay, it was introduced. Automatic failover was introduced in SCOS or Storage Center OS 6.7. Customers love it. I can say with confidence, it's bulletproof. Every time I demo this for a customer, it's live, and it just works.
No, but I remember working with a lot of compellent ones going, and it's coming in the next, we think. This was always the off table. It's coming, and so happy to see it here.
Yeah, you and me both. So what we've done is I've enabled automatic failover, okay? What I want to do is scroll over to the right here and look at a couple of columns here which speak to our status of our volume in terms of automatic failover. So I can see that the failover state is protected. That tells me that automatic failover is enabled and the volume is protected, means the volumes are in sync. It wouldn't do us much good to fail over to a volume that is out of sync. In other words, we have a data integrity issue, so they're in sync. And that's it. So what we're going to do,
Let's kill.
let's kill.
Let's
So
kill something.
in this case, this is VM1, all right? I'm going to open, I've got a script that will shut down both controllers of the SC56 array instantly. Well, it takes about 3 seconds to log in and actually power, but you get the idea. They'll both be powered down. And I'm going to kind of move this so we can see it. Now what we're watching for is obviously the iometer activity to slide all the way to the left, indicating that iometer and the VM are now having issues generating read and write IO.
Well,
Huh?
the flash player.
I'll start that as soon as IO drops, okay?
Okay.
All right, so I'm gonna hit a key. Did that work? There we go. There we go, I'll start the flash player. At this point, both controllers of SC56 are down, okay? At this point, the SC58 storage center, which is the replication partner or the other end of this stretched live volume, is contacting the Tiebreaker service, saying, hey, I can't reach SC58 or SC56. What do you see? Tiebreaker says, I can't communicate with it either. I think since you are the secondary live volume, I think the prudent thing to do is activate, become the primary, so we can, satisfy a read and write request that come in for the application. You can see, usually takes somewhere in the neighborhood of 17 to 21 seconds. I'm not busy talking about stuff, and we've automatically failed over the read and write IO to the other storage center, SC58, for that.
What are my options for the witness?
For the witness. So the tiebreaker service, the witness, the quorum, whatever we're going to call it, we don't care. It can be anywhere as long as it's not in either of the two sites where the storage centers are that are the two endpoints of the volume. So let's call it third site, whether it's a customer's third site, as long as we got to have network connectivity, obviously.
Is it a Windows app? Is it?
It's a data collector. So the tiebreaker service lives as it runs as a hidden service within the Dell Storage Manager data collector DNA. Wherever you deploy a data collector, which is the federated management, it actually has the tiebreaker service code in it. Whether or not you leverage the tiebreaker service depends on, if you create a live volume and check the box that says automatic failover, then that tiebreaker service is going to be a tiebreaker for that volume. You may have noticed when we were in the DSM UI, there was a column that said, is local tiebreaker. What that means is this data collector that I'm logged into right now is the tiebreaker service for that live volume. We could have other data collectors running within the environment, okay? that also manage other arrays or even the same arrays. And we can likewise set up live ones with those other data collectors, but we only allow one data collector tiebreaker service to be, the mastermind or the quorum
Right.
for, to handle events for an unplanned outage for obvious reasons. We want to avoid things like split brain and, frankly, not failing over can be just as important as failing over if the certain conditions aren't met. And there's,
You can put in the cloud, right?
yeah, so third site
I was
could
just
be a
going to ask
customer
for
site.
that.
Yep.
Yeah, probably should give you the
Witnesses-
short answer.
Witness as a
Cloud,
service.
perfect. Cloud is a perfect candidate for it to be a third site. So all we need is TCP port 3033 to get to the data collector, and that's really it. Okay, the data collector, the tiebreaker service is not in the path of I/O, so it's not we don't have data, customer data flowing through there. It's literally just the tiebreaker service and the witness.
So we have 1 minute more. I
1 minute more.
Take
Well, that's the failover. I mean, that was the really.
Yeah, we should show.
That was the exciting
I
part.
want to show them the new Unisphere, if you have. Right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
well,
Where Luke is
we're
saying,
all that crazy about the old Unisphere.
Is it failed over now?
That's the least.
yeah, well, it failed over a long time. I don't know. You're asking if it's failed back. He wants to show Unisphere. Okay.
Let's show you what is coming from a DSM perspective.
All right, so this is a Java-based UI. Who loves this?
I'm so happy to see that.
Oh,
one go away.
yes.
Please, 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 please.
All right, so what we have coming is
We're going to replace the Java UI with a Flash UI.
Yes.
no. We
Oh.
skipped that step. We're going to leapfrog straight to HTML5. Okay.
Oh, good.
This demo is running on pre-release code DSM 2018. Okay, which has a new HTML5 UI built into it, and this is a preview of that. Not complete, obviously, yet,
When you
but
say built-in, that's in the manager, not in
it's
the.
built into the data collector, so there's not even a client at this point. So when I logged into the data collector when I ran those other demos, that is a client-server application.
Yeah.
That's what's going through
Yeah.
TCP port 3033.
Yeah.
This is web-based HTML5
Is in.
UI, all right? So we can go to, this is the landing page, we can go into storage centers. We should see kind of a similar, here's our federation of 4 SE series arrays. We can drill down into each one of those, and start looking at a lot of the same types of things that we have in there. Pools, the hardware pieces, bandwidth control, so that's probably where QoS lives, and so forth.
So while the functionality is different from what we have on Unity, but you'll see the look and feel is very similar to like the way we panels these and how we show these tabs out here.
It's like I got an IE problem in my lab.
So the idea here is not only, it's also to embed this and to provide HTML5 and provide the same experience that you have on Unisphere for Unity, right? So it's bringing these things that a customer that is used to Unity, he can find himself also in the,
More
and
easily.
vice versa, right?
Yeah.
And these are all customizable widgets, basically, right? You select the ones which you want, these dashboards, right? We have that on Unity, and you can now do the same thing on SC as well.
And when you go to Cloud IQ, as we spoke about, the same design is also in Cloud IQ. So you have a completely end-to-end experience from the UI perspective.
By the way, back on the tiebreaker service and the data collector in the cloud, if it's not already well known, so this data collector instance runs on Windows, and historically we've been on Windows for a long time. We also have a Linux appliance version, fully functional, of our data collector. So if Windows is an issue, or if a Windows instance in the cloud is an issue, feel free to use our fully functional Linux appliance version.
Can I get that as an OVA? An OVA download somewhere?
Yes.
Just to make good news.
Yeah.